we are on January the 12th in the year of the Lord 2026. And as usual, I've got a lot of good information for you. So let's jump over here to my Rumble channel, Murtech on Rumble. This is the live stream we're talking about tonight, episode 1805. Let's go ahead and jump into that. Let me pause this, close out the live chat, slide down here, and click the Show More button to expand out the description box. Okay, we have information here from Question Everything, Devory Darkins, USA Watchdog, and Wendy Bell Radio. But before we get into that, I got a lot of shout outs to give. Nab1053 just started following my channel. Melody11 just started following my channel. Mathio just started following my channel. Marja Miko just started following my channel. At Lake 247 just started following my channel. Gumwagon12 just started following my channel. Killer Carey just started following my channel. And Maria Weirworth just started following my channel. Nancy Renee 3038 just started following my channel. Kansaji just started following my channel. I've got that twice. And looks like I've got Maria Weirworth. For some reason I copied those in twice. But thank you folks for following my channel. I greatly appreciate that. I hope you're tuned in and I hope you enjoy the content. Okay, Debbie BS reposted my episode 1804. Jeanette J66 commented on my daily news wrap-up from last night. Cannonball 31 commented on my episode 1804. Cottonball 31 commented on my extra 587B. And Fisher C45 commented on my extra 587D. Debbie BS commented on my extra 587A and 587B and 587C. And Debbie BS and Cottonball 31 commented on my extra 587D. Okay, so thank you very much, folks, for your comments and reposting my video. I enjoy reading your feedback, and I definitely appreciate your support. So let me give this a thumbs up. Boom. There we go. And speaking of comments, I have a comment of the day here from Fisher C45. Save your states, walk away from the Democrats' plantation. They are against your best interest and the source of U.S. problems. Get MAGA, vote red. Okay, and that's what we're trying to do here, folks, is just spread this information out so these lunatics that still think they're Democrats might just kind of maybe a light go off in their head and say, I don't think this is really what I wanted. Who knows? All right, let's jump back here and see what's going on here with Question Everything. Former Nicolás Maduro security guard delivers a first-hand account of advanced technology used. Okay, let's check it out here.
A security guard that was protecting Maduro has spoken, and you got to hear what he said. It's in Spanish, but I'll translate. Also, Trump announced that, the cartels, they're going after him in Mexico. The whole vibe of Latin America has changed because of what happened in Venezuela. And now that we're getting firsthand accounts from people that were there, the soldier says they didn't hear him coming. He says the Americans had technology superior to anything they've ever seen. Everything that they were using for radar, for anything, was completely taken offline. They had drones, and the drones were taking out bases and taking out things faster. They didn't have no technology. They've never had to fight against drones. He also talks about that there was only 8 helicopters. There was only 20 men that were sent in. And those 20 men killed hundreds of their men. And none of those soldiers were injured. He talks about it felt like they were firing 300 rounds a minute. Nothing they've ever seen, nothing that they can compete with. And then he also talks to the fact that the Americans had some kind of sonic shock boom that was sent out. and everybody immediately started bleeding profusely out of their nose. They couldn't even gather themselves because whatever was sent at them made them fall to their knees and vomit blood out of their mouth and out of their noses. They were incapacitated immediately. He says he never wants to never wants to go through that again. Doesn't want to have to fight with the Americans again. He's sending warnings to everybody out there that you think you can fight the Americans. You don't even know what their weaponry is like and what they're capable of. 20 men took out hundreds, and that's starting to spread all through Latin America. And now they're not saying, if you want me, come and get me anymore. They're like, oh shit. Especially after Trump says, hey, Mexico, you're on the list too.
All right. Now, I think my episode C today, I have more information on this, but I did want to break that tonight and let you know that if you want to go down and watch the episode C I dropped today, it has more details on this. But let me click on this Rumble link and show you this video does come from Question Everything. I'm following the channel. I've given them a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. All right, let's jump back here and go down here and see what Devory Darkins has to say about Kristi Noem drops brutal news for Democrats after she obliterates CNN host on live TV. This is Jake Tapper, you know, the same guy that said Biden was in top shape and we were all idiots for mocking him because he has a stutter. Okay, yeah, he's real reliable, so let's see what Kristi has to say to Jake Tapper.
I'm just waiting for the investigation to come through. I'm wondering if you're not doing a disservice to the officer by reaching a conclusion before the investigation takes place.
I haven't heard you say once what a disservice it's done for Mayor Fry to get up and to tell ICE to get the F out of his city, and AOC to stand up before she had any of the facts and call this officer a murderer. For individuals, well, call them out, Jake. Spend as much time calling them out. Okay. I have provided you with facts and information to back up every single word that we have said and every single part of this investigation. And if you don't like it, that's fine. But we're going to continue to do the right thing to keep the American people safe.
I know that you'd like to make me the topic of this and not what happened, but I did ask a Democratic senator just a few minutes ago about AOC's comments. And I don't actually even know what you're talking about when I ask questions as if like that's an assertion. It's a question.
All right, let me explain to you what's happening today. So Kristi Noem showed up to CNN and did an in-person interview. Kudos to her, of course, for showing up during this time and being willing to face fake Tapper, which brings us to the pushback that she's been receiving because she called the acts from Renee Good as domestic terrorism. And of course, fake Tapper spent a lot of his time trying to get her to walk those comments back, and she refused. In fact, I'll show you a clip of that. Take a look.
Facts of the situation are that the vehicle was weaponized and it attacked the law enforcement officer. He
I mean, not what happened, but I did ask a Democratic senator just a few minutes ago about AOC's comments. And I don't actually even know what you're talking about when I ask questions as if like that's an assertion. It's a question.
All right, let me explain to you what's happening today. So Kristi Noem showed up to CNN and did an in-person interview. Kudos to her, of course, for showing up during this time and being willing to face fake Tapper, which brings us to the pushback that she's been receiving because she called the acts from Renee Good as domestic terrorism. And of course, fake Tapper spent a lot of his time trying to get her to walk those comments back, and she refused. In fact, I'll show you a clip of that. Take a look.
Facts of the situation are that the vehicle was weaponized and it attacked the law enforcement officer. He defended himself and he defended those individuals around him. That is the definition. When there is something that is weaponized to use against the public and law enforcement, that is an act of domestic terrorism. It happened in our shores. It happened here in our country. You don't get to change the facts just because you don't like them. We will continue to look at this individual and what her motivations were We know that there was, throughout that morning, she had harassed and impeded law enforcement operations. That raises the suspicion level with all of these law enforcement officers as far as paying attention to what her capacity is. And as you see on the videos, and they've proven out that this law enforcement officer took the action that his training prepared him for, and he worked to make sure that he could save his own life and those around him.
Okay, so first things first, this is the second time Kristi Noem mentioned the words domestic terrorism when describing Renee Good's actions, particularly the group she's been a part of. This is what they do every day. They follow, they surveil, and recently they've been impeding the operations of ICE agents. And the thing that is always left out is the local police department. They're not allowed to interfere in all of this. There is zero buffer between people like Renee Good and ICE agents. So you have something called domestic terrorism. I went here to the FBI's website, definitions, terminology, and methodology regarding domestic terrorism. It's very clear, guys. It's referenced in U.S. Code 18 U.S.C. 2331, paragraph 5, involves acts dangerous to human life that are a violation of the criminal laws of the United States. Also, appearing to be intended to intimidate or coerce a civilian population. Second one here, influence the policy of a government by intimidation or coercion, or affect the conduct of the government by mass destruction, assassination, or kidnapping, and currently primarily within the territorial jurisdiction of the United States. The one I have highlighted, I think, sums up what that group has been doing, which is trying to influence the policy of the government by impeding law enforcement operations.
I want to stay on this question, which is about the way in which the woman who was shot and killed is being labeled as a domestic terrorist. Just to be clear, is anyone who protests ICE a domestic terrorist in the eyes of the administration?
I can't say that. It's a case-by-case basis. But, if you look up the definition of terrorism, is there violence? Is there the threat of violence based on an ideology that wants to change the way the government does what they do? Look up the definition of terrorism.
But was Secretary Noem correct to label her a domestic terrorist, Mr. Homan?
Look, we don't know what I don't know what Secretary Noem knows and what I know. I can tell you is what they did is illegal. And
what I find to be interesting about all of this is now the media is obsessing over the words domestic terrorism. That if they actually took the time out to read the definition, one could argue, if they were really good in court, they could argue that she did fall into this definition because of her affiliation with a group whose sole mission is to do what exactly? Change the policy of the government regarding immigration. And they do that through the form of intimidation by what? Mass protests, blocking vehicles, doxing them, surveilling them, and impeding them. That's exactly what we saw in that clip with Renee Good. Unfortunately, she lost her life over it. And no one wants to see that, as I continue to say. All right, now let's go to this next clip. This is J.B. Pritzker reacting to Kristi Noem's comments. Take a look.
Well, what happened in Minneapolis is a tragedy, and it's one we've seen twice, at least in Chicago. And in the Chicago area, we had a murder that took place by an ICE agent who claimed that he was seriously injured by somebody, and that's why he shot and killed him, Silverio Gonzalez Villegas. That was in September, by the way. And then there was another shooting in October. 5 times a woman was shot. The ICE claimed that she had a semi-automatic weapon. She did not. But each time, the DHS, Kristi Noem, and her assistant secretary, Tricia McLaughlin, have put out statements within minutes, usually maybe within the hour, putting facts forward. At the beginning, we didn't know what the facts were because there weren't cameras on the situations. But then witnesses came forward, and we found out what really happened in both those situations. And that is why we know that ICE was at fault and why no charges have been brought against, for example, the woman who was shot 5 times, who they claimed was a domestic terrorist back then.
All right. Now, what you just heard there from the governor is another argument that Democrats will use to push back against ICE. It's the story out of Chicago where a woman was accused of ramming ICE officers off the road, led to her being shot 5 times. It gets into court, and all of a sudden DHS and the DOJ, they drop the case against her with prejudice, meaning she will not be charged again. So what does that mean overall? It means that whatever case they had against that woman was flawed from the get-go. But using that particular story and trying to compare it to what happened with Renee Good, that's apples and oranges, okay? We have the video footage, we have the audio tapes, we have the eyewitness, We all seen it ourselves. There's no question that the ICE agent was hit by the vehicle. And in that split second, it's deference on his side to feel if he was threatened to use force. That is a different situation than what happened in Chicago. But of course, the governor will lie about it. Now, let's continue.
Now we're seeing it in Minneapolis. We're seeing the shooting in Portland and elsewhere. They are, ICE and CBP are breaking their own protocols. You read them earlier, their own protocols, and not only roughing people up, but literally shooting at people and killing them when in some cases they're U.S. citizens and they're doing nothing wrong. So this is why I have said that the president is not following the law, why Kristi Noem needs to resign or be impeached, and why Tricia McLaughlin should not have the job that she has. She's a pathological liar. She's their spokesperson.
Okay, let me go through this really quickly here. Some of you guys are struggling to kick a particular bad habit, especially in the name of convenience. What am I talking about exactly? Well, as I go through this, I think you'll get the picture here. But we're talking about 99 cents, who have already made it to do. I just have to keep on harping on it. And I think the people who really should be getting a lot of backlash right now is the police chief and the mayor. They refuse to be a buffer for what's happening in their community. It's because they literally want this to happen. And I'll show you an example of it. Take a look at what happened this morning in Minneapolis.
People need to fucking show up with guns to face you guys. It's fucking time for an armed resistance against the United States of America.
Take your mask off.
This is done. We're done. You're fucking murderers. You shot a woman in a wheelchair. We need to fucking come back with fucking weapons. Go to the gun store, get a gun, learn how to use it, and fucking face you guys.
We can hear there from that protester is that he's going to collect up a bunch of people. They should go to a gun store, buy a bunch of weapons, come back and shoot up these ICE agents. Why would someone say that out loud, especially on camera? I'm not following what's going on here. Again, these people are mentally unwell. This is not the way to push back against ICE agents. And that's just just look at the Minneapolis Police Department. They used to have 900 officers. Now it's down to 600. I wonder why that is. Wasn't because of protests. It was because the politicians believe in defunding the police. One could argue that the politicians are the ones who are truly dangerous. Okay, so what you just saw there in that clip also supports the argument that I have is why aren't representatives condemning the behavior of protesters? These protesters are not peaceful. They're preventing ICE agents from leaving their vehicles. They're blocking vehicles. They're vandalizing vehicles. They're attacking ICE officers and impeding their operations. Don't you think if you want your community to be safe, you would be condemning that behavior? Well, I would probably say that that's not what they believe in, because just this morning, Ilhan Omar said this about Renee Good. Take a listen.
But do you see from the recordings that we see, is there anything that you believe was being done that should not have been done by Marsland Good? The administration says she was blocking the road. They are claiming this is an act of terrorism.
Yeah, Renee Nicole Good, as you hear her say, she's not mad. She's sitting in her car, peacefully waving cars to get by. This agent, as you see, gets out of his car, automatically starts running towards her, trying to open her door. She feels scared. She tries to turn the wheel away. And then you see the other officer, who can clearly see the car is moving, move towards the front of the car, which, if they are saying that he has 10 years on service and is trained, he should know that you shouldn't be trying to get in front of a moving car. And
that's the ignorance that I've been continuing to tell people about all of this, is that people think they're experts regarding what law enforcement should do. They obviously are acting as if he was in front of the vehicle the entire time. He wasn't. He was circling the vehicle. They actually were looking to remove her from the vehicle. I think they didn't expect that she would actually try to flee the scene. And then what do Democrats call that? Well, she wasn't fleeing the scene. She was just trying to get out of the way. That's how they gaslight people, folks. It's really a shame. But what's more of a shame is that they're willing to criticize the comments from the president, the vice president, and Kristi Noem, but they won't criticize the comments from the mayor, Jacob Frey, and the governor. Take a listen.
So it is not acceptable for Kristi Noem and the president and the vice president to make these kind of judgments without there being a full investigation, even though we can see in the videos that have been produced so far that what they are describing is really not what is taking place. And so saying that we shouldn't believe our eyes, then let the investigation take place before you characterize this mother of three as a domestic terrorist.
All right. Well, number one, we went over the definition of domestic terrorism. The group that she's affiliated with would fall into that definition according to the actions that we've seen there. And maybe it doesn't hold up in court. It doesn't really matter in the end whether you believe that's the term or not. What matters is you have a citizens way because they want to change the policy of the government. And there's a lack of the local police department controlling this stuff in their own jurisdiction. They could have easily shown up, removed her from off the road. We never would have heard of this. Let's go to Tom Homan. Here's what he said.
The environment right now with the threats against ICE officers have been shot at. They've had Molotov cocktails thrown on them. They've been doxxed. They've been, again, assaults up over 1,300%. Threats alone up 8,000%. And you're in a situation with this lady where it's impeding, interfering already. He's in a dangerous situation. And again, I want people to understand this. Put yourself in his shoes. Put yourself in his shoes. Where he's in that environment, assaults against ICE officers all-time high. You have a vehicle that is pointed toward him and accelerates toward him. He has a second to make that decision. And I truly believe, and again, this will come out in investigation, that in his mind, he feared for his life and he took appropriate action. And that, according to federal law, that's a legitimate response. And even according to Minnesota law, Minnesota state law even talks about a vehicle coming toward you and the right to defend yourself. This officer, I think in his mind, did the right thing to save his own life and life of others.
Yeah, let me just add on to what he was saying there. The other thing that I find to be concerning is that these protesters have no idea who they're truly defending here. They believe they're defending the United States of America. They believe they're defending innocent people who are just trying to make a living. But when you actually hear the people being arrested in a state like Minnesota that are in the country unlawfully, you can't help but actually question why they believe these things. Let me show you an example. Here's some of the lists that's been released by DHS of individuals who've already been arrested by DHS. Take a look.
You have an individual from Laos, illegal alien convicted of violent sexual assault of minors. A Salvadoran convicted of 3 counts of homicide. Another Laos convicted of sexual assault of a girl under 13 years old and procuring a minor for prostitution. You have Mexican illegal convicted of homicide, a Sudanese illegal convicted of homicide, another Mexican national convicted of sexual assault of a child. You've got a Somalian citizen, illegal immigrant convicted of homicide, and the list goes on and on. This is just a sampling of those. And by the way, Laken Riley would have turned 24 yesterday, but her life was taken by an illegal immigrant allowed into this country from Venezuela.
But you never saw conservatives rioting on behalf of Lincoln Riley, burning down businesses, assaulting elected representatives or federal law. You never see any of that from the right. But on the left, when they disagree with something, this is what they do. Why don't you guys give me your thoughts in the comment section below to the update today with these interviews that you've seen for Kristi Noem. How do you think she handled herself? What did you make of Ilhan Omar's comments? And also, Governor J.B. Pritzker, just give me your thoughts, everything you got in the comment section below.
Okay, now, I'm going to go ahead and pause that there. He's got like half a minute left. All right, as you can see, this does come from Devory Darkins. I've given him a thumbs up. I don't know what happened, why it just kind of cut off like that. I had to restart it. But, all right, we got that through. Great information, incidentally. Let me jump back over here and see what's next here with USA Watchdog. Cash cut off as globalist deep state panicking with Alex Newman. I love it when I share USA Watchdog, Greg Hunter, and I share Alex Newman's podcast, his channel. I like it when these people get together. It kind of adds confirmation to the information that I am sharing on Murtec.com. So let's go ahead and get to this and see what they got to say.
I'm Greg Hunter. Welcome to USAWatchdog.com. With us, a return visit by a guest I had on at the beginning and the end of November. And at the beginning of November, he said, Venezuela is a very dangerous enemy. And at the end of November, he said, leftist Marxists are preparing to take over America. And boy, look what's going on in Minneapolis with the shooting of this woman. And then Laura Ingraham is getting somebody to admit on camera with a mask on her face, do you have a job? I'm getting paid now, baby. I think these are paid people, paid disruptors. They're not paid protesters. This is a protest. These are paid disruptors. Then you have, people like that angry little man, Rachel Maddow, saying, if we get 3.5%, this is a person that won a journalism award talking about activism. We get 3.5% against the tyrant, which is, we get, oh, really? Well, if you're paying people to show up to inhibit ICE, then that's not a protest. So I think you got full-blown panic with the folks who are the left, the radical left. I think their plan has been completely disrupted with everything that Donald Trump is doing. No, he's not perfect, but better than Kamala would have been, that's for sure. And then we have the guest who wrote this book that is woke and weaponized about what's happening to your children. And you want to hear, he's going to talk a little bit about his book, which he has just came out. I don't have the all I have is the cover art, but he actually has the book that he is sending out now. And so it is Alex Newman. Alex Newman, thanks for joining us today on USAWatchdog.com.
It's an honor and a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having me, Greg.
Well, let's talk about this crazy time that is up in Minneapolis and anywhere else ICE is showing up. You had Kristi Noem saying that, this woman that got shot was stalking ICE for hours. And then you have Ingram, I think they're being paid. I think there's evidence that they're being paid, which is not protest, which is basically agitators who are paid to break the law and inhibit ICE operations, because this is screwing up their deal, along with the stuff that was uncovered with the Somalis and the giant fraud in many states and billions of dollars in fraud. Is the left in panic mode now?
I think the globalist deep state is absolutely in panic mode, and I think the left is as well. I think the operation against Maduro sent a massive shockwave through the global left, which I really see the global left as a tentacle of the global deep state. It runs right through Venezuela, and it runs right through Minneapolis. Let's not forget what happened in 2020. If you remember the uprising there, as they described it, it was organized behind the scenes by a number of different groups. The key ones, the Sunrise Movement, basically a Rockefeller-funded front group, right? These are professional, paid revolutionaries. Yes, they're useful idiots. Yes, many of them are idealistic, but they have huge money at their disposal, primarily Rockefeller money. Then you look at Black Lives Matter, another revolutionary group designed to put pressure from below, again, funded by the establishment. Yes, they are Marxists. In fact, they said on television that they were trained Marxists, but they're also funded by the Fortune 500, right? I mean, brought to you by all the big Fortune 500 companies. And the nexus with the global left is absolutely crystal clear. Let's look, for example, at Nicolás Maduro. Just some years ago, he was hanging out with the leaders of the Black Lives Matter movement. We've got the pictures to prove it. They had a fun little event in Harlem where Opal Tometi, the co-founder of the Black Lives Matter movement, was proudly posing with him and talking about how wonderful Venezuelan politics were. So we have a massive operation designed to ultimately bring down the United States. If you go back further in time, if you go to, for example, the takeover of Cuba by Fidel Castro, again, you've got the deep state fingerprints all over that operation. In fact, very few people were warning that he was a communist at the time. Our U.S. ambassador was. He knew. The New York Times was painting him as a freedom fighter. The State Department was painting him as a freedom fighter while they were actively working to undermine the existing leadership in Cuba. Well, he took over. Robert Welch warned that he was a communist. Everybody else said he was not. Eisenhower said, wow, you would have had to be a genius and a prophet to figure out that this guy was a communist. That, of course, was total nonsense. But Castro and his regime basically launched the terrorist communist movement that is taking over Latin America right now. I think the best way to think of the Maduro regime and the Chavez regime before that is as a colony of communist Cuba. They needed a new strategy. So in 1990, Fidel Castro got together with the Colombian Marxists, the guerrilla group, the Marxist narco-terror group FARC, the Sandinistas from Nicaragua, and Luis Inácio Lula da Silva, the now president of Brazil. At the time, he was a community organizer. And they came up with a new strategy for conquering the Western Hemisphere. And Chavez was a critical part of this, not because he was some kind of genius communist revolutionary, but because he controlled Venezuela. And Venezuela became, Greg, the cash cow that was funding this entire subversive movement through the drugs, through the oil. And Donald Trump, in one fell swoop, took out that massive piece of their architecture, and they are all now pooping bricks, for lack of a better term. They are absolutely terrified about what may come next. Now, to come back to the revolutionaries in our streets right now, I think what we're seeing with this shooting in Minneapolis is very similar to what we saw with George Floyd. You had the entire revolutionary architecture funded by the big money, the Soroses, the Rockefellers, the U.S. aid until recently. They created the networks, they created all the infrastructure, and they needed the right spark to kick it off. 2020, of course, it was George Floyd. 2026, it was the killing of this woman. But the illegal immigration piece is obviously huge as well. The deep state and the left understand that the mass migration that they have used to flee the United States and flood the Western world, Western Europe obviously being one of the key examples, is critical to the ultimate takedown, reshuffling of the world order to end up building this global new world order that they talk about so much. So it all comes back together. I think the deep state is in a genuine panic mode. They don't know what Trump might do next. I think what happened in Venezuela really scared them. But as they always do, they will try to make lemonade out of the lemons. And so I think we're going to see some big things happening here. I think what they're trying to do.
Wait, stop this,
Greg.
Hold on. I want you to come back. Big things happening. You think what they're trying to do is?
I think what they're trying to do is set up the United States for total collapse. Economic collapse, blame Donald Trump. Descent into civil war, blame Donald Trump. And then forever discredit conservatism, make America great again, America first, Christianity, basically the last vestiges of what we used to call Christendom or the free world. And so I think they're hoping, and we talked about this a little bit the last time I was on your program in November, Greg, they're hoping to kick off a revolution in this country. And so Trump's in a very difficult position right now. They want him to act like a dictator, right? And he's been about using the Insurrection Act, and he may well have to because we're dealing with an insurrection. But the global establishment wants him to now become the dictator that they've been arguing he is, so that they can discredit him, and so that when they try to collapse everything, they can easily blame it on the fiction of Donald Trump that they created. So I think he's in a very dangerous position, and we're down to the wire here. The global deep state or Donald Trump and the Make America Great Again movement, only one of those two can be successful. And so this is a very dangerous, it's a very precarious time. And, I don't envy the position that Donald Trump finds himself in.
Ooh, what might they, this is what I was going to ask you. You say a lot of stuff they might do. What might they do?
I think they're going to try to stir up civil unrest, and I think they're going to try to provoke Trump into some sort of overreaction. This incident in Minneapolis was looking very promising for them until the footage came out and showed that this lady actually did try to run over and murder the ICE officer. That may start to fizzle out, but they will look for something else. They'll look for some other incident. If this one doesn't end up taking off, they'll find another incident that they can use to mass mobilize people. And a lot of conservatives aren't seeing this, Greg, because kind of people have segregated themselves into these online ghettos. There were thousands of people on the streets of New York just a couple nights ago shrieking about how we should kill ICE agents. There are leftists posting threats to murder American police, to murder federal law enforcement agents, to murder American troops. You've got Governor Walz talking about bringing out the National Guard to protect Minnesotans from the evil federal government. They're setting the stage for a civil war. And I warned many years ago, Greg, that they were trying to set the United States up for a civil war. They need to collapse this country. And if Donald Trump is successful, if he's able to nip this in the bud, he's already dried up a lot of their funding, not just through Venezuela, but through cutting off U.S. aid and many other things. He could emerge on top and he could crush this subversive movement. But if he falls into the trap, it could end up being catastrophic for the United States, and we could see a genuine bloody conflict in this country that would be very difficult to recover from.
I think that's what he's doing in Venezuela. People are like, they're taking the oil. Yes, they nationalized the oil. They built all these refineries in the Gulf Coast and in the 70s, and then they developing their oil, and then they went, oh no, we want it, we're nationalizing it. And so it looks like what Trump is going to do, the people, the frackers are all mad that, oh, we're getting screwed. Well, yes, too bad. He's gonna try to drop oil prices even lower. He's gonna try to get it even lower. I mean, so it looks like he's trying to basically use their oil, and they owe us for it, and then also box out China, Russia, Hezbollah, Hamas, and Iran. And it's like, oh, oil. So you'd rather have China, Russia, Hezbollah, Iran, and Hamas in control of Venezuela. That's what you want?
Yeah, that is what they want. That is what they want. They want to see the entire Western Hemisphere conquered for communism. And Trump is really up against some powerful forces. Now, if you look at his latest national security strategy, he basically makes the case, his administration basically makes the case that we're going to revive the Monroe Doctrine. We're going to protect the Western Hemisphere from subversive foreign influences. Primarily, obviously, they're talking about the CCP, Iran, the Kremlin, things like this. But in another kind of twist to all of this, they seem to be adopting some of Curtis Yarvin's ideas on basically allowing different governments to have their respective spheres of influence. So the Chi-Coms would be the dominant power over in East Asia. The Kremlin would kind of be the dominant power over Eurasia. And I have some concerns about that as well. It's a very difficult situation. I for one am a firm believer in non-interventionism. I believe that the United States should really mind its own business. But right now, what we're dealing with in Latin America is, as I explained in early November on your program, it is an existential threat to our country. This communist network that took over Latin America, the Sao Paulo Forum, is very closely connected to the CCP. It's very closely connected to the Kremlin. It's very closely to Iran and Hezbollah and Hamas. It's very closely connected to the European left. And in fact, this is openly acknowledged. And here's the real kicker. This is why this is so dangerous, Greg. It's very closely connected to the deep state, the globalist establishment in the United States of America, going all the way back to putting Castro in power. That was a deliberate U.S. government policy decision. They pretended like they didn't know he was a communist, although their ambassador there was warning them that he was communist. And then through Cuba, which at the same time was kind of a Soviet puppet, they started taking over other areas. And now this network, it was founded by Fidel Castro and, like I said, Lula and the Sandinistas and the FARC in Sao Paulo back in 1990. Their goal is always to take over the Western Hemisphere. And part of that is taking down the United States of America. They were getting ready, I believe, to pull the trigger. And I think, based on what I have seen, what I have heard, that that's one of the reasons why the Trump administration acted in that very, very dramatic fashion. So the threat has not been neutralized. You heard as well. You heard him talking about the Colombian president. We talked about the Colombian president last time I was on the program, Gustavo Petro. Remember, he was in New York City, yelling through a bullhorn, telling American soldiers not to obey their commander-in-chief. What a weird thing to say for a foreign head of state in New York City. Why was he doing that? Well, because they are anticipating civil unrest in this country. And they figure if they can turn even some of the armed forces, even some of the security forces against the president, they can create a conflict here that would not have a decisive victory for the United States, for the constitutional republic, but that would have a decisive victory for the globalists in their effort to destroy America. And I would encourage people, go back to the 2017 memo written by Rich Higgins, Director of Policy and Planning on the National Security Council. He warned Donald Trump about what we're facing now. He said, you cannot think of this as normal politics. This is a Maoist-style insurgency. He said there's an alliance of globalists, communists, and jihadists, and socialists and others. And their goal, he said, is to destroy the United States of America, not just as a nation, but as an ideal. That's their objective. And I think all of this other stuff, it sounds like noise. It all seems disconnected. It all goes back to that ultimate objective. They need to destroy the United States so that they can finally bring about their one world order. And we'll probably have an interim period. They call it the multipolar system. That is what they're trying to build right now by weakening the United States. But their long-term objective is a one-world system and a free, independent, strong United States based on biblical principles, based on our constitutional form of government, is an impenetrable brick wall standing in the way of that dream.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pause that there. I'm like 15 minutes into this 1-hour video. I will include this in my daily news wrap-up tonight, so you'll get to see the rest of that. But yeah, this is one, you can tell that it's a plan to destroy the United States. They can't be that stupid, okay? They can't be that ignorant. This is all a plan. I'm telling you, folks. And we need to get this information out. Let me click over here on the Rumble link and show you that this video does come from Greg Hunter's USA Watchdog. I'm following the channel. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. All right. Well, let's jump back here and see what Wendy Bell has to say about the outrage economy. Okay. Let's check this out.
Days in to January, 12 days into a new year, and there has been no shortage of breaking news, no shortage of exposés of bad people being caught doing awful things. And you have an administration that is keenly aware, I believe, of all of it. You have one kid, Nick Shirley, 22, 23-year-old guy, right? Or right-wing MAGA YouTuber. No, what he did something amazing, guys, because he wanted to go find out for himself. And in one 42-minute video exposing fraud, he did something amazing. He brought black people and white people together because you know what? It's so weird. The color green is something both of us care more about than the color of skin, yes? He also exposed the ridiculosity of the mainstream media, their lack of interest in a story that has such wide-ranging implications, right? He did what none of them was willing to do. And in that moment, blew up the entire idea that the media even matters anymore, because we are the new media. And, right, blew the lid on this ridiculous Somalian fraud and all this other stuff that's connected and coming out. Did you see Scott Bessent, Secretary of the Treasury, said he estimates it is 10%. He echoes Elon Musk, said he believes that the fraud in this country is equivalent to 10% of our budget, $700 billion. That's something. But I want to share with you a personal story as I got Tim Walz on the mind. And I'm going to share with you about Christmas, something that I've been doing as my kids have gotten a little bit older, especially the adult boys. You guys remember last year, my son Chris had said to me, Mom, you know what I want for Christmas? I'd love nothing more than a Mel Blount jersey. Steeler. Love him to death. Love to have his jersey. I said it on this program. I got in the mail 2 weeks later. A gentleman sent me a signed Mel Blount Hall of Fame jersey. I gave it to my son, Chris. He went nuts. This year, I framed it in one of those beautiful shadow boxes so that someday when he's a grown-up and he goes and has his own place, he'll always have that as a piece of art, but a memory. And hopefully when he looks at it, he'll think of me. I know, devious, right? For my second son, I got him this Christmas a beautiful picture. We have a great photographer here in Pittsburgh named JP DeRoll. And he's amazing. And he takes these beautiful pictures of the Steel City, the confluence of the rivers, the skyline, which is seconded to none. Sucks that we're a Democrat blue hellscape. But if you're up before all of that hell breaks loose, it's a beautiful skyline, right? I got Jack one of these beautiful pictures. It's on metal. He'll have it for the rest of his life. No matter where he goes, he'll always have a slice of Pittsburgh. And hopefully when he looks at it, he'll think of me. This year, I decided I was going to go all out. I was going to get all of my kids really warm, extraordinary winter jackets, Canada Goose. If you know the name, you might know the name because it's trendy and it's expensive. I know the name because they are the warmest coats you'll ever wear in your life. They are prohibitively pricey. About $850 a pop for the low end, okay? I bought my sons these beautiful coats for Christmas. This is going to be a one and done jacket for you. This will be the coat of your lifetime. It comes with this ridiculous warranty. It's been tested to temperatures below whatever. You could go fall out of a plane in the Arctic Circle with this thing. And as long as you could keep your feet, your ears, and your hands warm, you could survive in this jacket, right? Chris's wasn't the right size. And he's like, Mom, I love you for this. This is such a great gift. I'm so happy, but it's too small, and I prefer Bobby's style instead of this one. Do you mind if maybe we could exchange them? No problem. So I go through the process, and you would think, with the expense of these coats, I think Chris's was $750. And inside the box, it's all beautifully packaged. It's exquisite. And you open the box, it's like, right? And there's an envelope, and inside the envelope, congratulations, welcome to the Canada Goose family. You have all these wonderful protections. Here's a QR code. Scan this if something isn't right. We'll make it right. So I scanned it. Open it up. I'm sorry, that QR code isn't working. If you have a problem with this QR code, just send us a message using this order number or plug it into our website. We'll pull up your order. We'll fix it. Well, the order number didn't come up. It gave me a prompt back. So I got on the phone and I called the store where I bought it. I bought it in Boston. Joe and I were in Boston before Thanksgiving. And I was like, hey, got a message. Hey, I'm trying to make this exchange. The coat I want to get is $125 more. I just have to exchange this one to you. No phone call back. No phone call. Send them an email. Hey, trying to exchange this coat. Trying to buy another coat. It's more. I'm trying to give you my email bounces back. We're sorry, but this isn't a functioning email. We don't recognize it. If you'd like to get some progress, though, join our live chat. At this point, my hands are shaking. Ladies and gentlemen, it's $750. So I get on the live chat on Saturday morning with a virtual assistant who presumably is somebody whose name is Georgie, right? Going back, well, I'm so sorry. I'd love to help you, but you'll have to return that coat in store. Well, I don't live in Boston. I live in Pittsburgh. I'm not going back to my suggestion is that you call the store. I have called the store. They haven't called me back. I've emailed. The emails have bounced back. QR code is dysfunctional. The order number doesn't register on your website. What do you want me to do? I literally have purchased $3,500 worth of winter wear from your company in the last 4 weeks. One of these things isn't correct. Nobody at Canada Goose will take my call, answer my email, or freaking help me out. Guys, Canada Goose is Tim Walz, right? Both offer these wonderful deals, right? Canada Goose, greatest outerwear ever. Oh my gosh, it'll be warm forever. And people who pay attention to labels will think you're pretty special if it matters to you. Here's Tim Walz. Oh my gosh, we've got this wonderful program for Somalians. The sky's the limit. You can have whatever you want. Come on in, help us out. Yes, you're invited. Then Nick Shirley comes knocking on the door. I send them messages and call and try to get my QR code to work. And we get the same response. Tim Walz is radio silent. Sorry, I don't know what you're talking about. What are you talking? Grift, graft? What? No, not us. Canada Goose, nothing. Zero. Either way, what do you get? A lot of bells and whistles, a lot of fluff, a lot of promises, a lot of lifetime guarantees. Got a problem? Get in touch with us. Unless, of course, you have a complaint, in which case you can go, suck it. That is where we are. I'm tired of paying premium prices, taxes, yes, without getting the benefit. Well, where's the warranty? My streets are covered in filth. The roads need to be repaved. There's serious issues infrastructure-wise in my city. Why am I paying Canada Goose taxes, but I'm getting JCPenney quality hoodies? What am I getting here? This is where America is. And it's so curious because money is the greatest equalizer of all. Black people don't like being ripped off any more than white people, Hispanic people, Asian people, gay people, fat or thin people. It's the universal language. I will pay for quality. I will pay for service. I will pay for you to respond to me and for me to feel as though you are grateful for my business. What I've gotten is a big, fat zero. And that is where America is. That is where Minneapolis has been. And that is what you and I, no matter what you look like, are fighting against. Stop abusing us, promising us the sky, giving us a product that you don't stand behind, and then evaporating into the ethos when we have questions. Nick Shirley, in one video, blew all of that out of the water, ladies and gentlemen. And he opened a door to a much broader conversation that we're going to have today about this Renee Good and about the left's militant activism, while curiously, by the way, the Iranian people right now are truly protesting for their own lives. Radio silence here on the left about that. Isn't that interesting? This, ladies and gentlemen, is where we're going today, okay? When we come back on the Wendy Bell radio program, I got a video about the Insurrection Act. What does that mean? If you have government,
see you in the morning.
If you have local people refusing to enforce the law, which is going on in Minneapolis, what is the federal government's recourse? How does that work? Is it lawful? Is it historic precedence? Oh, yeah. Buckle up next on the Wendy Bell Radio Network.
All right, let's move it up here and see what she has to say.
Which is the Commonwealth. Well, welcome back to the Wendy Bell radio program. Hey, if you do not live in my slice of what I call the land before time, which is the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and mine is the southwestern slice called Pittsburgh, you do not know that we have a new mayor whose job number one, right after his inauguration last week, was basically to declare war on ICE. We will not cooperate with immigrations and customs enforcement agents when and if they come to the Steel City. Not going to participate. Really? Really? Is that what you think, Kory? Who put you up to that? This is very interesting. His name is Kory O'Connor. Brock and I have found it particularly intriguing that a top person in his administration happens to be the daughter of Governor Josh Shapiro, who just graduated from college. Why else would a 22-year-old bounce up to a top job in a mayoral administration? Seems logical, isn't it? Of course not. So the pay-to-play garbage, that happens. And Kory O'Connor, if he wants to be the Democrat mayor who's going to further drive this city into the toilet and create an exodus, the likes of which can only be seen in California right now with the billionaires fleeing, yes? This is what you get when you live in a blue sanctuary city of suck. You get people who say, we're not going to cooperate. I don't care if there are criminal, illegal alien rapists on the street. We will not cooperate with ICE. Really? Day number one, that is your objective. Message heard loud and clear, Mr. Mayor. You hack, right? He didn't come out and say, you know what, we believe in a safe Pittsburgh. We believe in a place where you should be able to be outside. You should be safe. You should have opportunity. You shouldn't have to worry about the drug zombies. You shouldn't worry about where the homeless are. We should work together to clean that stuff up. God forbid you had a Democrat mayor who ever came out and said that stuff. He's all about the restrictions and all the things that we're not going to do. Well, tell me, why the hell do I pay taxes? If the federal government is trying to remove people who make my family, my street, my neighborhood unsafe, why would you counter that and then ask me to pay you to not do anything? Kind of feels like Canada Goose all over again, getting bent over. I want you to hear Anonymous. This is the X account Anonymous, who breaks down the Insurrection Act. It's a very interesting 2-minute explainer of the historical context of a very important trump card this president has that he could play. He would be justified in using it. Historically, it's been done before with great success. But I think we should all be educated on the cards that may soon be on the table. Listen.
Let's set the record straight. The Insurrection Act isn't a loophole. It's the law. It's the safeguard our founders built to preserve the Union when states refuse to protect the rights of their citizens or enforce federal law. Under normal conditions, the military doesn't act as police. That's what the Posse Comitatus Act prevents. But when governors or mayors abandon their duty, when violence, defiance, or political theater make enforcement impossible, the Insurrection Act allows the president to act, not to conquer the states, but to restore order, protect citizens, and reestablish the rule of law. Here's how it works. There are 3 legal pathways for invoking it. 1, when a state requests help during rebellion or unrest. 2, when federal law can't be enforced by normal means because of obstruction or rebellion. And 3, when state leaders refuse to protect constitutional rights or defy federal authority altogether. Before troops move, the president must first issue a public proclamation ordering agitators to disperse, a final warning before action. It's not martial law. Civilian government continues. Military's role is supportive, not supreme. And the president's power is still bound by the Constitution, judicial review, and public accountability. The act has been used by Presidents Jefferson, Eisenhower, Kennedy, Johnson, and Bush Sr., always to uphold the law when local leaders failed to. Today, as some governors and mayors threaten federal officers, ignore immigration law, and even promise to prosecute ICE agents, the stage is set for another showdown. If that moment comes, the Insurrection Act is the legal mechanism that defines where state defiance ends and federal authority begins. My friends, we are all anonymous, and remember, law without enforcement is chaos, and the Insurrection Act exists to prevent exactly that.
When governors or mayors abandon their duty, it's part of your charter. It's part of the Pittsburgh Charter. There is a structure of law and order. And it is incumbent upon the leaders of this city. If you're listening to me, Mayor O'Connor, which I'm sure you're not, you're probably with, who knows your constituents, promising this or that, which never moves the needle for the benefit of we the people. The president has every right to invoke the Insurrection Act to restore the rule of law. And all of the unrest that we're seeing right now is almost mind-bendingly boggling. If you watch the video of the young, malignant woman protesting ICE, who decided to follow the agents around all day, agitate, incite, block traffic, put her car in reverse, and then slam it into drive, aiming at a federal agent. If you haven't seen the video of her dancing in her vehicle in the moments before that happened, before she was shot and killed, get educated. It's all about law and order. To the left, it's all about shaping a bogus narrative.
Celebrate freedom. Honor history and wear your pride for the nation that started it all. Introducing the We the People 250th Anniversary Hat, a bold tribute to 250 years of American independence. Designed for patriots who stand tall, this cap captures the enduring spirit of liberty.
On the front, the powerful words "We the People" stand stitched in classic script, reminding us of the document that built a nation. Below, 1776 to 2026 marks 250 years of courage, unity, and freedom. The colors say it all: deep red, crisp white, and strong navy blue, a reflection of the American flag itself.
Designed for patriots who stand tall, this cap captures the enduring spirit of liberty. The Liberty Bell stands proud above the lettering, reminding us of the sound that first rang for freedom. On the brim, the declaration continues: defend liberty, crafted for comfort. built for durability, and made to stand out wherever you go. This hat isn't just an accessory. It's a statement. Whether you're at a game, on the go, or at a 4th of July celebration, show the world where your heart stands with America.
Honor the past. Defend the present. Inspire the future. Get your We the People 250th anniversary hat today and wear your freedom proudly.
Okay, I've copied the chats into a comment here, and all right, let me go ahead and make that permanent. And you know, Wendy brought the thing up about blocking traffic. This is something that I just cannot understand, how law enforcement will allow people to block roadways and streets and highways. I mean, you can protest, okay, but that does not mean that you have the right to infringe on other people's rights, okay? People have day-to-day lives, and they block a street for what? For Ukraine? For this lady? These people that they're blocking the streets have nothing to do. When they're trying to get to work, they had nothing to do with Ukraine or this lady that got killed or anything else that they're protesting. I just don't get it. I just don't get it. Okay, let me remind you folks that these videos that I shared with you are videos that come directly from the producer. I have the links to the videos and the links to the producer's channels in my description box. I don't get any commissions or royalties for sharing this information. And these videos that I've shared with you today are videos that I've posted here on Mertech.com, where I have over 55 no-nonsense, common sense, logic, and truth videos. I'd like to share all of them with you, but unfortunately I don't have the time to do that in this 1-hour podcast. That's why I put together my daily news wrap-up. And right here's Wendy Bell's radio. I'm going to include that tonight. Dr. Steve Turley, Greg Hunter, some information from Benny Johnson on the Fringe, MG Show. Got a good list of information here for you tonight. No nonsense, common sense, logic, and truth. That's what I try to share with you. Okay, well, with that being said, let me say this. I'll be back about 9:30. Give me time to adjust my list if I need to and set up my Rumble studio and be back here about 9:30. So go ahead and take a break. Grab a cup of coffee and a donut or a sandwich and a soft drink or a beer or even a glass of wine and cheese and meet me back here about 9:30. But in the meantime, I do want to say thank you for spending your time with me. Hopefully, I'll get to see you again later, and may God bless.